Hello, welcome. My name is Lynda Whitehead, the founder of X10 Archery Academy, and I'm glad you're here with me. We're going to dive into X10’d Your Mind, which is an introduction to mental mastery, and the first in a series of workshops that will include a sequenced set of teachings. First one being this one, the introduction as to why we want to master our mind. And the next one in this series will be Master Your Wellness. We're going to learn some basic tips and tricks in this workshop that we'll expand on in the wellness workshop, and then after that will come the consciousness workshop, which we're going to dive kind of deep into some spiritual areas. Don't worry and fear what that might look like depending on your background or culture. This is going to be relatable to everybody, and it all ties into the culmination in this series, which is going to be Extend Your Archery Game. I'm going to be sharing tips and tricks used by elites, athletes, CEOs, business people, and anybody who wants to expand their understanding of life and implement what they do to create success, well-being, and live a joyful life. So let's dive in. So I want to welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm very excited to share these teachings with you. So let's talk about what this workshop is not. It is not a passive lecture. This is experiential learning. It's not just about archery. These principles apply to life and any performance. We're not going to be shooting bows, clearly. We're not going to learn about archery form, and we're not going to talk about equipment. So let's talk about what this workshop is. It's a framework for tapping into mental mastery in sports and beyond. We're going to use science-backed, proven strategies used by elite athletes and thought leaders. And it will be a way to dig deep into our own psyche to discover self-limiting beliefs, which we all have, and use tools to hone our thinking systems and outcomes. So let's dive in. I want to share a little bit about my story, my background, what makes me qualified to be able to teach the things that I'm going to be teaching through my life experiences and education. So as it says right there on the screen, my story, I'm not claiming to know it all. I'm sharing what's working for me, what I'm learning, and how it might help others too. And if you know me, you know my heart, and my heart is for people and helping people find their potential. So the paths that I've gone down through my life are obviously what brought me to here, which started out with a very dysfunctional family. My parents, both alcoholics. My mother left home when I was 15. My father left home when I was 16. I had to put myself through college and fend for myself and figure life out. I had no mentors. I had nobody to lean on. So I had a solid career, which I figured out for myself with several promotions, series of broken relationships. Had my son, most of you know him, Curtis, and he was planned. I was at 30 years old at the time. And then not long after, I married a Cajun, moved to the US and discovered archery in 2010, which was the first thing I had ever done with people outside of work since the all-night dance parties in my 20s. So archery was a new community connection for me. So X10 Archery was born in 2014. And then in 2015, when I was competing at a local and state and national level, I discovered a hack. I don't like using that word hack, but I discovered something by observing another archer, which led me to podium silver and gold medals at the local, state, and national level because of this one thing that I observed, which was the foundation, the starting point for me to go on the road of mental mastery and learning many of the things that I'm going to be teaching today and in future workshops. So Extend Your Mind was originally born in 2015, and then through a series of emotional upheavals, including a flood, a divorce, financial challenges, being single for the first time in 30 years. I went through a complete genesis, a rebirth of myself, rediscovering who I am, what I believe. And it's put me in a state of constant learning and discovery. I've been studying neuroscience, consciousness, um, NLP, nutrition, human biology. And so, with all of that, it made sense for me to rebirth the X10’d Your Mind workshop. And here we are today. So, I shared my story to let you know that regardless of upbringing or background or career or education, most of us have conditioned limiting beliefs in some form or another. And there are things that we can do to reset how we think. So I mentioned this hack. That was the start of me resetting how I think and the birth of the new Extend Your Mind workshop. In this video, we're going to take you through some discomfort. Why? Because what is the definition of insanity? That is doing the same thing the same way and expecting different results. So when I watched that archer I mentioned earlier, I did something different. So here's how it went down. It was a national competition outdoors in Decatur, Alabama. And I was with a bunch of ladies. We were the Barebow Nation. It was actually the first year that Barebow was recognized as a division to compete at that level. And we were having a great time, having fun, cutting up and looking on our phones and sharing memes and pictures and just being goofy. Well, I observed a lady who I knew. She was in the next division up from me. She was a master's division. I had observed her. I knew she was a champion. And I just watched her to see what she was doing. And she just sat there watching all of the other archers. She would finish shooting her round. She would come and sit down, just sit quietly, put her hands on her lap. She wasn't looking at her phone. She wasn't cutting up with the other archers. She just sat quietly observing. I could tell that she was in a flow state. She was in a Zen state. She was calm. She was collected. It spoke volumes to me because I could see the difference between what she was doing and what everybody else was doing, cutting up with everyone. And so I implemented that hack. I didn't, at the next several competitions, I came away from that national competition with a gold and a silver medal by implementing that, just sitting quietly. And all of a sudden, all of these people who I'd been around and having fun with, they were like, what's up with her? She's being like RBF. And I did the same thing at the next indoor competition, a state competition, a field competition, and I just stayed in the zone. And it was uncomfortable because it meant that I was not being sociable with everybody else. But there was a reason. I was staying in the zone. I was focused. I had my head in the game. And so it worked for me. Like I said, it was uncomfortable, but it got me on the podium. It got me where I wanted to be. So you can apply these methodologies to your own game and set examples for those around you. What I'm looking forward to is building a community of like-minded winning athletes and people. And I don't just mean everybody has to be on the podium. What I would love to see is everyone having this mindset of being in the game and taking it seriously and applying some strategy to how they think and getting into that flow state. In talking of discomfort, you've heard some of these phrases before. Embrace the discomfort of growth, or find ease in the unease. Lean into the challenge. Grow through what you go through. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. You've all heard me say those phrases before. And I hope you get the point there. We live on autopilot, locked into the default living unconsciously. You'll hear me talk a lot about living consciously or living with awareness. We tend to chase comfort, familiarity, and instant gratification, but comfort isn't the same as wellness. In fact, the default often pulls us away from health, clarity, and potential. Science tells us now that our DNA isn't fixed and that we're not even governed by it. Today's physics is way more complicated than we consider when we consider the potential of particles and waves at the quantum level. Quantum physics is proving the power of belief. And we're going to spend a whole section on the power of belief here shortly. So, what does it look like to consciously or intentionally build a life that supports growth instead of stagnation? So, this is where we talk about the mainstays of healthy human living. And the mainstays are mindset, which is a state of awareness, nutrition, how we fuel ourselves, and lifestyle, what I call day architecture. So let's break that down a little bit. So mindset is the foundation because it shapes everything else, the way you think about life in general. If your mindset is in a state of awareness or living consciously, you're more likely to make better choices in nutrition and lifestyle. So you see why mindset comes first. Your beliefs drive your actions, whether you believe in your ability to change, your commitment to health, or your perspective on stress. Your beliefs drive your actions. A strong mindset creates the discipline to follow through on healthy habits, adapt when things don't go as planned, and stay consistent over the long term. So, what about nutrition? And we're just going to skim over nutrition and lifestyle today. Today is mostly about mindset, but there will be those additional workshops on wellness, consciousness, and covering lifestyle too. So, nutrition, diet directly influences your biochemistry, your energy levels, metabolic health, which in turn affects your mental clarity and emotional stability. There are many studies coming out now connecting mental health with metabolic health, which comes down to nutrition. So, what you eat dictates your gut microbiome, which influences neurotransmitter production like serotonin and dopamine. It affects your insulin sensitivity, inflammation levels, and even the way you perceive stress. You could have the best lifestyle habits, but if your diet is inflammatory, nutrient deficient, or unbalanced, your body will be fighting an uphill battle. Ask me how I know. Like I said, I'm talking from experience and having fought much inflammation and autoimmune disease, which I've worked through. I've made changes. It's still an ongoing battle for me, but I know what to do and I'm working with it. So biofeedback, we're going to learn how we can apply living consciously to listening to our body. We call that interoception. And understanding what it is signaling to us. Our body doesn't betray us. It signals us about its needs and limits. So lifestyle, let's just talk a little bit about day architecture. So that includes how you live daily. Your day architecture or routines could be your social connections, exposure to nature. That's a huge one right there. Grounding, exercise and movement, sleep hygiene, environment, hobbies, and your ability to regulate stress. That's your autonomic nervous system. We'll cover that a bit later. So healthy lifestyle habits enhance and reinforce both mindset and diet. But without the first two, it can feel out of control. For example, a well-structured lifestyle makes it easier to maintain a good diet and reinforces a positive mindset. So, for example, meal prepping, mindful eating, morning routines, cold exposure, and movement practices. And the reason mindset comes first is because everything stems from the internal before the external. Your mindset determines whether you take action. The diet fuels the body and the brain to support those actions, and lifestyle sustains and reinforces the system. So all three are interconnected, and an imbalance in one affects the others. So ideally, they work together synergistically. But mindset is the key, because without it, everything else becomes chaotic. So mindset starts with awareness, and it consists of consciousness. That's it. So what does consciousness consist of? The conscious mind, which is the thinker. This is where we spend a lot of our time. We will spend most of our time here actually in the conscious mind, as it controls everything else. We call that, like I said earlier, living consciously or awareness. It's the analytical, logical, and reasoning part of the mind that deals with the present moment. Its function is to process sensory information, make decisions, and is responsible for willpower. Its limitation, the conscious mind limitation, is it can only handle a small amount of information at once. If you want to work with your mind, you have to develop the awareness and ability to slow it down, where you can view whole thoughts, triggers, and patterns. So this isn't in my notes, but if you're anything like me and you have a bit of an ADHD kind of mind, where as well as having that background theme song playing, you're thinking about what's for dinner, the conversation that you had earlier with your ex or your neighbor, your friend, and it's just this cacophony of noise going on in your head, all with the background song that you're singing the lyrics to at the same time. So when our conscious mind, this is in addition to the external distractions, we've got internal distractions. When our conscious mind is constantly bombarded with distractions, such as texts, notifications, billboards on the commute. Think about that. The next time you drive down the highway and you see all of the fast food signs and the billboards and the advertising alcohol and this lawyer and this attorney and just stuff. That's all it is. It's stuff. That quick fix dopamine, like boom, 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 those hits keep us in the conscious mind. And it makes us less able to focus or make new programming stick in the subconscious mind. So whenever you're learning something and you want to embed it in the subconscious mind, all of those distractions around us are going to prevent you from fully absorbing whatever it is that you're learning. So what happens when we're stuck in the thinking mind? Constant internal dialogue, like I said earlier, reliving that conversation, a road rage incident that still irks you and you're still thinking about it. Thousands of lives that you see into every day on social media. You don't even know those people, but you're seeing everything about their lives. And it's making you think about your life and what you're doing. You're letting other people's lives affect yours. It's all random, meaningless crap that is living in your head rent-free. keeping you from finding clarity and flow, and subsequently keeping you from the outcomes that you want. So, onto the subconscious mind, the programmer. The subconscious mind is the deeper layer of the mind that stores habits, beliefs, emotions, and automatic behaviors. It functions with about 95% of daily life on autopilot. You know how that goes. Storing past experiences and conditioning. We'll come back to that, the conditioning from your childhood. Its limitations is that it doesn't distinguish between real and imagined experiences. It accepts whatever is repeatedly impressed upon it. All of those billboards, all of that advertising, that subliminal all those subliminal messages coming your way. So the application in archery to our archers who are watching is muscle memory, confidence, pre-programmed responses to stress or pressure that comes from the subconscious, which is why mental rehearsal and visualization are so powerful. I'll do a whole other workshop on mental rehearsal and visualization. So what about the superconscious mind? This is the infinite. So what is that? It's the higher intelligence, the field of infinite possibilities and connection to intuition, flow state, and universal consciousness. It has all kinds of names, quantum field, akasha, but it's a state out there that we tap into. Its function, it transcends personal identity and taps into inspiration, creativity, and peak performance states. Its limitations are that it requires openness and surrender, which, are you able to do that in a distracted state? It cannot be forced, but is accessed through states of coherence, meditation, and present moment awareness. So the application in archery, this is the flow state where everything aligns effortlessly. When an archer is in the zone and executing shots with precision beyond conscious effort. Now, what do we believe about ourselves? Many of our beliefs are from conditioning in our upbringing, from parents, teachers, and those around us. Is what you believe about yourself and reality true? What if they're wrong? We're not bound by the laws of Newtonian physics and the laws of biology. Notice I said Newtonian physics. Placebo effect is a proven phenomenon. And I'm going to share a quick study here about hotel maids where they were interviewed and asked if they exercised, and every one of them said, no, we don't exercise. So when they were told that you are actually burning a lot more calories than you think just by doing your work, they measured them over the next several weeks and discovered that without changing anything in what they were doing or their diet, the maids had started to lose weight because they knew that what they were doing was exercise. They believed it and it worked. So beliefs are the bridge between the subconscious and the superconscious mind. This is powerful, powerful stuff. The beliefs can be dull or bright. Some people call them limiting beliefs, and they can wither or nourish our ability to access higher states of performance and awareness. So it's pretty obvious here. When we look at a couple of trees, one is dull and withering because of the poor nutrition and belief at the root system, whereas one that's been exposed to lots of sunshine and brightness and nourishing soil, good nutrition, it's thriving. So that applies to us too as people. So dull or bright beliefs you choose. What are your beliefs? A quick example of a limiting belief that I had, a dull belief. When I was 12 years old, my parents put me into piano lessons. It was my dream to become an organ player. I loved the sound and the feel and the frequency of the sound of pipe organs in cathedrals. So I wanted to play a pipe organ. They put me into the piano lessons. I'd already been playing the keyboard for a few years, played by ear. And my piano teacher got very frustrated with me because I would learn the music. I would just play it without reading the music. And she would say, Lynda, you have to read the music. And I would say, I don't need to. I've learned it. I don't need to read the music. Well, she ended up telling my parents that I was unteachable. So I was taken out of piano lessons and was convinced from then on that I was unteachable. And it affected me on many levels. I've gotten over it since, but that's an example of a limiting belief based on something that I was told as a child. So those beliefs lead to the thoughts that we have about ourselves, which make us feel a certain way. If you think about any memories that you have, good or bad, they're related to how it made you feel. That's how memories are saved, based on how it makes you feel. And your emotion is energy in motion. In future workshops, we're going to talk a lot more about energy. So how that belief made you think and how it made you feel leads to the intentionality behind the action. So with your limiting beliefs, the actions are going to be kind of meh, which is going to lead to the results, which feeds back into the beliefs. So let's look at the tree of belief. I love this. So you believe, think, and feel that it's not possible, or that you are just naturally on the struggle bus. That's your life. That's just the card you've been dealt, right? On one hand, you want something, but on the other hand, you believe that it's not possible to have it. The problem is not the problem. It's how you think about the problem. So let's take a look at those roots, shall we? So your beliefs are the roots, the subconscious truths that you tell yourself. These are the subconscious truths that are formed early or through repetition and emotion. Some examples are, I'm not good enough. Things have to be hard for me. Success isn't safe, or I'm different and that's bad. So the beliefs are the source of nourishment or poison for the tree. And then we have the thoughts, which are the trunk that leads up to the top of the tree. And the thoughts emerge from the beliefs, and they're the mental stories we tell ourselves. They're shaped by the root system. Examples are, I'll never win this. I always screw up. No one notices how hard I try. So the thoughts are the internal narrative that directs our perception. So next we have the feelings, how it made us feel. These are the branches. And the thoughts trigger the emotions such as unworthiness, defeated, you might be anxious or frustrated or disconnected. So those feelings are how the inner world starts to shape our energy. And that leads to the action, which is the behavior and the intentionality based on how we feel. So the actions are things like procrastination, over-efforting, avoiding feedback, quitting, or even hiding. So these actions are the visible expression of that root system, that root belief system. So then let's move on to the results, or the fruit, what life gives us in return. So based on those limiting beliefs that we started out with, the results could be, I didn't place well. See, I knew I wasn't good enough. The results are the cycle's completion, feeding right back into the roots unless it's interrupted by intention, awareness, and new programming. So if this tree were you, what kind of fruit are you harvesting right now? So what do you want? We need to set your intention. Is it the podium, that Joad pin for our archers, that promotion, that relationship, money in the bank? Intention plus belief gives us the outcomes that we want. By knowing what we don't want, we've seen the results, we've seen the fruit that we don't want. So by knowing what we don't want, we know what we do want. We must allow ourselves to have desire for the outcomes that we want and believe that we deserve it. Intention plus belief in the outcome gives us the outcomes that we want. So in martial arts, some of you might be familiar with this, something like breaking a block. Not only do they focus on the finish, i.e. seeing the end result as though it's already done, they believe that it's going to happen. There are multiple scriptures from all faiths that speak to this too, about considering it already achieved from the heart. That leans into the quantum realm that we'll unpack in another workshop. Now we're going to reframe our thoughts, words, and actions. But before we do that, let's have another example of a study where we can see this in action. So this is a really cool study. It's called the Don't Stop Believing study, like literally from Journey, where they were reframing anxiety as excitement. So this is a study by Alison Woodbrooks in 2014. Get excited, reappraising pre-performance anxiety as excitement. So what they did was, before singing Don't Stop Believing at a karaoke, they had to say to themselves, either I am excited or I'm nervous, or say nothing at all. Well, guess what? The ones who went in with the mantra of saying, I'm excited, actually performed better than the other two groups. You can't solve a problem with the same energy that created it. It's a different frequency and feeling. So feel good about your goals. What we think literally becomes our reality. What we say becomes our reality. And what we do becomes our reality. So let's go back to that tree of belief after we've reframed how we think about it. So same set of roots, thoughts, actions, feelings, and results, but by just changing the way that we think, the new beliefs are, I'm good enough. Things are easy for me. Success is possible for me. I'm different, and that's great. Which leads up the trunk with the thoughts of, I know my shop process. I can win this. I know how to recover. And it doesn't matter what other people think. Which goes up to the branches, the feelings, I'm worthy. I'm in control. I feel so connected to this goal, leading to the leaves, which are the actions. You shoot a strong game. You're calm and coordinated. You speak confidently and you get into the flow state, which leads to the fruit, the results, the win, the growth that we need, the job, the friend, and all of the feelings that go with that, that feeds right back into the roots, back to the beliefs again. So in talking of intention, this is a really cool study by Masaru Emoto, a Japanese scientist, who took water, put the water into jars and labeled them or exposed them to music. Some intention was put into some jars, and some of it was exposed to music. Now you can see by the images here, the ones that were exposed to wonderful things like a Mozart symphony or Imagine by John Lennon, or the word love, peace, thank you, created beautiful crystals when he took that water, froze it, and put it under the microscope. And those were the crystals that were created. Whereas when exposed to negative words like I will kill you, or water that was taken from Fujiwara, which is a stream, I believe, before prayer and then after it had been prayed over, and you can see the difference in the cohesion, the coherence, and the pattern and symmetry of the crystals. This is a very real effect of the power of thought and intention. This is why we pray over food and bless food. And I know that might bristle some people because it sounds religious and, that's not your thing. But when you look at this study and many others that have been conducted like this, when we change the coherence from a coordinated coherence, from dissonance in the food that we put into our bodies, imagine the difference that makes to us on a cellular level. There's a really cool book, one of my favorite books, called The Intention Experiment by Lynn McTaggart. She's a scientist and has done many studies and pulled lots of other studies from other people showing the power of intention. It's very cool. Now let's breathe, meditate, and visualize. How many of you squirmed at that? So you remember the definition of insanity? So let's get comfortable being uncomfortable. Meditation and breath work are the cornerstones of mastering your mindset through control of your autonomic nervous system. It's somatic, it's grounding, and will ease you into whatever it is you apply yourself to in life. We're creating coherence between the mind and the heart. We're going to breathe. We're going to feel connection to the chair or whatever it is that you're sat on. We're going to find something to feel gratitude about, and we're going to visualize it. Breath work is ours to use in our own way. We should give it space and be present with it. It's free. And it's a powerful, powerful tool for us to use. So we're going to take a few cleansing breaths together. We're going to exhale slowly after we've inhaled through the nose. We will exhale through the mouth. We'll breathe in for a count of 4 and out for a count of 5. And then when you breathe out, you're going to let that sigh soften the body. Just let it all out. So with that said, go ahead and close your eyes. And I want you to breathe in 2, 3, 4 through the nose, out through the mouth. 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe in 2, 3, 4, and out 2, 3, 4, 5. Really feel connection with the chair that you're sat on. Breathe in 2, 3, 4, and out 2, 3, 4, 5. And one last time, breathe in 2, 3, 4, and out 2, 3, 4, 5. And now keep your eyes closed and allow your breath to return to its natural rhythm. There's no need to force or change anything. Just notice. And now bring your attention to your feet, wherever they are. If they're anchored to the floor, I want you to feel the connection between your feet and the ground underneath you. Now to your seat, notice that you're held by the chair. Notice that you are being supported. And notice your breath slowly rising and falling. And now bring your awareness to your mind. Notice if it's racing or if it's distracted or quiet. No judgment, we're just noticing. Now we're going to find the feeling of gratitude. So I want you to think of a time when you felt gratitude in your life, and that could be the birth of a child, a job you wanted, a promotion, even a great cup of coffee or a gift from a loved one. I want you to conjure that feeling in your heart and shift the focus of the breathing to your heart. So as you're breathing in and breathing out with a feeling of gratitude in your heart, imagine that is breathing through your heart. Reimagine that experience that gave you gratitude. See it vividly in your mind's eye. And I want you to relive that experience. Now take one final deep breath in through the nose and exhale gently through the mouth. When you're ready, slowly open your eyes and bring your awareness back to the video. Hi! We just did breath work, meditated, and visualized all with a feeling of gratitude in just a few minutes. Did you notice how your body and mind felt different before and after meditating? That exercise helped us locate an emotion. We located it in the heart through gratitude. Listen to your body. How does it react to situations on the inside? The body doesn't lie. If things aren't flowing in your life, it's because things aren't flowing in your body. After we practice stillness and visualization, our awareness is heightened. I hope you noticed that. It's the perfect time to tune into the body because the body is the unconscious mind. So let's find out where our emotion really lives. So you've probably heard of proprioception if you've been around the archery range, which is the knowledge and awareness of where our body is in space. Interoception is the perception of internal bodily sensations, and then visceroception, which is a subset of interoception, focuses on the internal organs, particularly the heart and the gut. So you've probably heard people say they had a visceral reaction to something. You felt it in the gut, you felt it in the heart. That's emotion. And I want you to start paying attention to that location. The emotion localization is the hypothesis that emotions can be felt in specific bodily regions, such as the chest or the abdomen. So now that we've looked at body awareness and discovering where emotion is in the body, what is the application of body awareness in everyday life? So body check-ins 3 times a day. Stop and ask yourself, what's happening in my body right now? This builds awareness of subtle changes that may otherwise manifest as anxiety, burnout, or other health issues. This could be you're driving your car. Where are your shoulders? They up by your ears? You're having a conversation. What's going on? Are you feeling tension in your neck? Can you feel it in your stomach? Just do a body check in. And then you can use body-based decision making. Use the where is the emotion in my body method before making big decisions. Check your gut, check your chest, check your throat. Each may have a different story. They're energy centers that all are telling you something. For now, just do that gut check, that heart check, and that throat check. Combine this with breath regulation to respond to situations instead of reacting. So body awareness leads to our ability for ANS switching. That's your autonomic nervous system. That's coming up next. As we strengthen the dialogue with the body in our mind, our heart, our gut, and our breath, we gain access to one of our greatest superpowers, and that's the ability to shift our nervous system response. And that's what we're going to look at next. So the ANS, autonomic nervous system, I call it ZIP or Zen. So you've all heard of fight or flight or rest and digest. I call it zip and Zen. It's just a one state or the other. We're always in one state or the other. And that's what we're looking for when we do that body check. So this is one of the most powerful parts of what I want to share with you. So zip is that state of fight or flight, on alert, panic, tension. An example of when I was recently in zip mode, and we do it for a reason. I was driving home one day from the grocery store and I got an alert on my watch that there was an air tag in my Jeep. Somebody had put a tracker on my Jeep, and so I did not want to go home with that tracker active on my Jeep, so I went to a mechanic shop, but that put me into instant zip mode. But because I was aware of it, I knew how to regulate my breathing, regulate my emotions. I was able to respond in a constructive way without freaking out, getting stressed, and not being able to think straight. I was able to handle it. So I got myself into a state of Zen, which is the parasympathetic nervous system, putting your body into a state of rest or digest. And that is where we get clarity of thought. We're always in one state or the other. So we should develop the ability to control switching between the two states intentionally, not as a default reaction, but in a controlled manner. So ask yourself, do you hurry through life? Some people are always in hurry mode, whether they're on a conversation on the phone or they're driving or they're in the grocery store. They're always kind of in zip mode. I want you to take notice of that. So flow versus hustle and grind. People say you gotta hustle, no, you don't. You're burning yourself out, burning the candle at both ends, and your autonomic nervous system is constantly in a state of fight or flight. It's not good for you. It's raising cortisol levels. It's going to deteriorate your health. So let's switch from the hustle and grind into a flow state by controlling our autonomic nervous system. Stress is a mechanism to put the body into the appropriate state. The sympathetic chain ganglia gets triggered and quickly releases epinephrine, which is adrenaline, to specific areas of the body, such as the leg muscles if we need to run from that tiger. To control this, we learn how to work with that agitation. We activate the parasympathetic nervous system, and the fastest way to do that is with a physiological sigh. Remember when we did that breath work with the meditation? By taking a deep breath in and then out again, is one of the fastest ways to get control of your nervous system. And it can take 20 to 30 seconds to take effect as it rids the CO2 out of your body. And this can sharpen cognition. So internal body awareness can happen before an actual event takes place. This is what we call gut instincts. This gets a little quantum. So we're harmonious by design, but we tend to drive our lives in first gear, redlining through life. When we achieve heart-brain coherence, which is what we did when we meditated and we breathed, we were creating heart-brain coherence. And you can recognize that and measure it through HRV, heart rate variability. We When we achieve that, we get more into the beta brainwave state. Then we get into the theta brainwave state, which opens up the bridge to the subconscious mind, which is the programmable area that we want to access with new thoughts, patterns, and behaviors. Your body is not just responding to the world, it's responding to your awareness of the world. All right, we're on the home stretch now. We're going to talk about nutrition briefly. It's an area that I'm super interested in. I've always had an interest in nutrition, mostly from my own personal perspective, managing my health, autoimmune, and some things that I've got going on. And while I've got some basic nutrition study as a coach trainer, I'm also going through a certification in sports nutrition from the International Sports Science Association. So we are what we eat. Our bodies need fuel like an engine, and we should use good fuel. And carbs cause glucose spikes and crashes. It's that simple. There is a place for carbs in some intense sports, but not for the most part. As it says here from Erin Sparrow, she's a sports nutritionist, better nutrition leads to better performance, not just in sports, but in life as well. So good mind and body fuel. Carbs do spike glucose and cause crashes. Good fats provide sustained energy and clarity. Studies are showing that many of today's diseases are metabolic and microbiome related, including diabetes, Alzheimer's, heart disease, and mental health issues. The food pyramid has been wrong for a long time. It's encouraging to see some of the moves in the right direction with health decisions at a federal level, and I will likely have another dedicated workshop on nutrition in the future. Lifestyle, you heard me talk about today architecture. So one of the main factors in health is your sleep hygiene. You have to get enough sleep. So go to bed and wake up at the same time. Eat light in the evening. Sleep-friendly environment, so between 64 and 67 degrees. Keep it dark to help release melatonin. Meditate, breath work, read before bed. Have a fix for rumination. So you go to bed or you wake up in the night and you're thinking about all the things and your mind's just racing. You're in zip mode when you're supposed to be sleeping. So a really cool trick to help you get back to sleep or help you fall asleep in the first place is something called NSDR, which is non-sleep deep rest. It's also yoga nidra. It comes from the yoga world, and it's been kind of science-ized by Andrew Huberman into a methodology called non-sleep deep rest. It's fascinating. Look it up. You're welcome. Did you know that learning memory embeds with deep sleep? Light exposure, limit blue light exposure at least 60 minutes before bed, and dim the lights. And avoid LED lights if you can. So morning sunlight sets your circadian rhythm. See if you can get some low angle sunlight in your eyes within the first 30 to 60 minutes after waking up. Delaying caffeine by 90 minutes after waking up will give you more energy later on in the day. Caffeine is a blocker of adenosine, and adenosine is a neuromodulator that builds up during the day to help you feel sleepy. Caffeine blocks adenosine receptors, tricking your brain into feeling alert. So if taken too early, while adenosine is still high, caffeine will build up behind the scenes, leading to a crash when the caffeine wears off. Grounding is a wonderful thing. Take your shoes off, walking grass outside in nature. And that's probably a whole other workshop as well. Breathe intentionally and manage your zip and zen. So we talked about how to do that, to manage your autonomic nervous system. The stress hormone cortisol raises when we're in zip mode, and this increases glucose. So if you've got any glucose issues or diabetes, managing your autonomic nervous system is a priority for you. Many doctor visits are stress related. Our lifestyles can be better managed for sure. And it just feels better to be relaxed, doesn't it? Well, we've spent almost an hour together. We've covered a lot of ground, and I really appreciate you hanging in there with me. This is a lot of fun for me, and I'm refining what I do. So I appreciate you hanging in there. So let's give you some practical takeaways on how we can use this information. So be intentional with your thoughts and your beliefs. Remember that tree of belief? Reframe how you believe, what you believe. Be intentional about your goal. Name it. Be specific with exactly what it is that you want to achieve. Use the conscious mind to set your intentions. And then we train the subconscious mind with repetition and visualization of your goals. Do body scans. Pay attention to your zip and your zen. Breathe intentionally. Pay attention to that. And pay attention to your nutrition and lifestyle. Most of all, live consciously. So that wraps it up, guys. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. Leave some comments down below, and there'll be a link in there to a survey. I would really appreciate if you could complete that for me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Okay, bye-bye.